Okay, so Zoom room's up. We are live. Let's talk a little bit about JavaScript and what kind of resources I'm helping y'all find, or I'm having y'all access so that you can take full advantage of this classic programming language that a lot of people have a lot of opinions about, if I'm being totally honest. Okay, so if we check out the thread for the week, I actually didn't know that it was a block day yesterday, so I anticipated us doing classwork yesterday, second period. So you can see that there is a reply with some resources, but you can basically ignore this Web Design Tuesday because it's almost entirely the same on Web Design Wednesday, including all of these attached extra resources here. So I've added to the agenda for the day a lot of different things that are going to break down how JavaScript works. JavaScript kind of beginner crash courses. This is the one that I'm taking outside of class just to get more familiar with Java. It's been a while since I've used it. Here's a shorter video with some examples, right? There's lots of resources here that can break down JavaScript. That is one of the benefits of this language. It's been around for a while, so there's a lot of problems people have found and workarounds, solutions to those problems in that time. So here we are. JavaScript is the world's most popular programming language. It is the programming language of the web. It goes along with our HTML and CSS to create the full what's called front end package. Anything that's front end means that users are doing something with it, like your clients, you're making sites for people to visit. That's the front end. We're not doing anything on the server side for this purpose of classes. Personally, I disagree with JavaScript being easy to learn, but because there is such a wealth of tutorials and stuff out there, there is a lot of resources that we can collect together and give it our best shot, right? And this tutorial, right, will teach you from JavaScript to advanced. One of the most common things that JavaScript is used for is creating extra windows on your page or buttons or just a general increase of interactivity that instead of having certain things happen with CSS, it can actually gather information about your page as well as not think necessarily. It's obviously not AI, but it can experiment a little bit depending on different conditions. If you think back to media queries, that's the idea of conditionals. When something is true, something else happens. That is very common with JavaScript because it's what's known as an object-based language, right? It programs the behavior of web pages. We know HTML does content, does structure. CSS does layout and style. JavaScript is the one that actually makes cool stuff happen on the web page. And this is different from Java. So I know some of y'all have heard of the term Java. There's a video I'll show you here in a second that kind of breaks down the history of JavaScript versus Java, but those are two separate languages. And we're focused on JavaScript, the two-word one. So I'll give you a brief example of what JavaScript looks like in, if I delete some of these extra files here, we'll come back. All right, here I have just a very basic HTML page. Just like with CSS, you can do inline JavaScript. You can also do external JavaScript, also just like CSS, which is the way that we're going to work towards. But for example's sake and for getting used to how this language works, I'm going to give you an inline example. And the tag that you're most commonly using with JavaScript is really easy to remember because it's just the word script. So when I hit enter, that's going to give me my start and end tag. It's not a void, so it's got a start and an end. And script tags are typically used as containers. So you're going to want to have that enter space inside of your body of your HTML document here so that we can actually do what we want JavaScript to do. One of the most common use cases of Java, especially one of the most like foundational things to understanding how Java works, is the idea of variables. And variables are typed out by going VAR, right? Shortened term for variable. And you can set these variables to whatever you want them to be. I'm going to go very simple and do a math equation with mine. But if I set the variable of x equal to 1, and then I set another variable of y equal to 2, okay? Now I have provided JavaScript with some information. Okay, sorry. So here we have given JavaScript some ideas, right? We're telling it for sure that this is true and this is also true, all right? And then we can also, we're just providing JavaScript with some information at this point. We can set the variable of sum to be equal of those variables, just like, or sorry, the function of those variables that actually reflects what sum is. So like, for example, if I did products, we're sticking in the math terms. That would be x times y, so x asterisk y. And then we could also do quotients for division. These are all different variables that we can use. Quotient equals x divided by, right? This doesn't do anything for my actual page because there's not an event or an instance. There's not something to actually use these variables. These are just setting the kind of building the memory that JavaScript can work with. So if I run and debug this page, right, there's nothing on it. It's a blank website. However, see if my output, yep, it didn't see anything. Okay, that's good. What we can do now, let me find it real quick. I had it saved earlier. Where did I put it? That's not it. What we have to do the, see, I'm still learning how all this works. It's not console, it's construct. There we go. Okay. One sec, I gotta find out where it went. But we've set all our variables inside of JavaScript here, and now we're gonna do we're gonna make it do some math once I find the thing that I need to find here. 1 second. Pause for effect, everybody. Okay, that's right. So with JavaScript, you usually have to declare where you want the thing to happen. You kind of have to reference what is going to be changing and where. And in this case, it's going to be our HTML document. So the document, now we're getting into function territory where, sure, we have these math functions, but we want the JavaScript function to be the one that references the entire HTML document. And what we want it to do to the document comes after a period, and write just means display any kind of text on my page here. So if I scrub forward a little bit more in my example that's available for y'all on Canvas, give me just a second. So what we can do here is we want to write something on the document. We have these variables to work with. Now inside parentheses, we can say what we actually want the JavaScript to interpret based on those variables. So if I were to write sum, for example, with my variable of x being 1 and my variable of y being 2, if I go back to that page, it should have a 3 on it. Because now the JavaScript is interpreted. I've got these variables to work with. You want me to write on the document the sum, all contained within this script container that allows the web pages to become more responsive. But you see how much work it takes to get just a simple document sum to make the number 3 appear on the page. If I change these to be 100 and I change this to be 200,000, right? We love math, we love addition, and it's gonna be 20, 200, 100, right? Let's go back to this. So instead of, if I wanted it to not be a sum, I could also do products. We could go through these one by one. 1 times 2 should make 2. Oops, that's, there we go. Right. We make this 300, right? JavaScript is all about setting variables and then doing something with those variables. This is called an object. So we have the information required to make the variable happen, and then we have the thing that we do with those variables, and those two pieces together combined will create an object. So another way that you can use JavaScript, let me delete this folder here real quick for effect. All right, let me get rid of this too. On my regular index page, in the past, I've had you make subfolders for scripts. It's the same way that I've had you make subfolders for styles. We can put an entire JavaScript file inside of its own subfolder, and then we can reference it with a tag similar to a Zelda link. So I'm going to make a quick scripts subfolder, and then right-click on that script subfolder, create a new file, just call it main.js. So these three, we don't have any CSS on this page, but all of the file extensions are going to be acronyms. So JavaScript is real easy to remember in the realm of HTML and CSS because it is just JS. So I have this script container happening with, we have our object created with all of our variables, and then the thing that we're actually doing with those variables. What we can do as well is use something similar to a Zelda link to connect this main.js to our index page here. And that, instead of being a link, is a script again, but we want script src is the extra part that we want to add here. So the only two elements that we've experienced in web design that use src are images and scripts. So those are the only ones you need to remember, because Anchor uses hrefs, and we're good there. Okay, so I'm going to start with the subfolder just like normal, scripts main.js. And this is one, see, JavaScript is kind of frustrating to me because we're so used to having to create HTML elements inside of our pages or entire CSS rules. The script tag does not need content in between the start and end in order for it to function. You would think this would function like a Zelda link tag, because it is more of a brain sort of item as compared to a body sort of item. But that's just the JavaScript rules. It's been around for a while, so it's got some old habits that want to die hard, right? Anyway, so I have a little command that I wrote as well, or not wrote, but I found online that I want to demo how it works real quick. Instead of setting variables, we're still setting variables and we're still setting functions, but instead of them being up and down, just like in this script, they're all kind of contained within a single line. And this is more of the JavaScript kind of experience here. This is our function. This is our document write as compared to our main.js. I think this is for construction. I can't remember what const actually stands for. The function is my heading. And the way that it gets my heading is it focuses on the HTML document that it's attached to, specifically asks for which selector that you get to assign, and that is an H1, right? This is not making a lot of sense because that's just kind of how JavaScript works. It's one of those things that comes with time, right? But these are the pieces that are coming together. You will see some themes that are consistent throughout different levels of JavaScript. There's always going to be some type of variable. There's always going to be some type of function. And then with those two things combined, more interesting things are going to happen on the page. So if we look here, this is in a little different order as compared to the script example right here. This is assigning our variable. We're assigning the construction of my heading to be the content of text. And whatever we set in the quotes here is that text content that is going to replace the document query selector of H1. That's a lot of gibberish. What am I even saying? What that means basically is this function, or the purpose of this function, is to change, let me comment this out real quick, is to change a specific type of selector based on a specific type of conditions. It's a very specific hyper-conditional sort of statement. So for example, if this H1 on line 19 just says test, it's obviously going to say test when I write it, when I run it on the HTML page here, because it's static. However, if I reintroduce this functionality with this script that I've created here, what it's going to do is construct a heading based on the document sector of H1. And it's going to change all of the H1s to whatever you set this variable to. So now when I refresh and I go back to my output, it didn't work, of course. That would be too easy. I think you're right. Put the H1 above the script and let's see if that works better. There we go. Now it works. So our text actually says test, but the script is changing the things on the page depending on what specific variable or specific function you are trying to set here. So real quick, I have a YouTube video that it goes pretty fast as well. This is just to kind of get you guys introduced. We're going to get the ideas out, the vibe out of how JavaScript kind of works, but we are going to need to spend some time kind of breaking down how these things function and how they work with one another. So I'm going to pull that up real quick. And I'm going to be putting lots and lots of JavaScript resources in our agendas because it is kind of one of those things that we're going to need a lot of reference documentation, a lot of stuff like that. But anyways, I'll quit. Yeah. Oh, that's not what I want. Okay. Unmute all this stuff. Unmute all this stuff. 1 second.
JavaScript is just-in-time combined language, which is called brand. Then highlight 1995
I want to start by saying I apologize that this video was not the teaching tool that I had intended and that I did not watch it with the sound on. That is totally my bad. But there is, if we could slow this video down and take a look at least the visuals that are provided, there is a lot of breakdown on the JavaScript syntax that we can work with. And I can still find some JavaScript breakdowns that are going to make sense to kind of give us some tools, give us a toolbox to actually work with here. This video is still available in the web design. It's this, where is it right here? I actually don't think it's in this one, but the JavaScript cheat sheet is also from this creator. I also watched it on Muse, so let's see. Let me check real quick. Gotcha. Okay, the captions were in English on this one as well. That's fine. Okay. I will find some extra resources to go along with that one so that we have some understanding of how JavaScript works. So give me just a second. I'll find a better video that's not better video, excuse me, but another video that will be helpful for us in this world of learning JavaScript. So I apologize again. Thank you guys. I'm so sorry. Give me 2 seconds. We'll do this one. This is one that I watched earlier that kind of breaks down that variable function as well as the array function. And we'll watch that one so you guys can see how JavaScript could work, and we'll have something more fleshed out when you guys are back tomorrow for our regular day. is we're gonna have to do more on Thursday because I think we're in the weeds a little. I am in the weeds a little bit here, trying to make this make sense. So.
Just learn scratch first and then we'll understand.
All right, so what I had planned. Let me see where there we go. What I had planned was I was going to have you guys try and find an independent JavaScript exercise, but the way that these tutorials have been going and the way that we haven't really covered anything, I think that's going to be not impossible, but incredibly frustrating for everybody. So I don't want us to do that. So that you don't resent JavaScript and web design. So what we'll do instead is chill for like 10 minutes. I will come up with something with us to do the last 20 minutes of class. And I will let you know what happens from there. Does anybody have any questions or anything they want to try, they want to learn, they want to find out?
I second.
Huh? You second my original idea? Does anybody have any qualms with that idea? You can tell me now, I won't be offended. You won't hurt my feelings. Okay, I'll figure something out. So. Again, I apologize. We'll work from here. Okay.